Yeah, defining everything is key, man. Like people throw labels. Social media is bad. People just want to go for like the headlines, the sound bites. I mean, you get shade thrown at you all the time for the sugar diet stuff, especially. But I mean, every time I've talked to you, you've been super reasonable. You're always just a guinea pig, self-experimenting, and we need that in the world for the most part because people need to know what's possible and they need to be smart enough to recognize that your results may not be the same for everybody, but you're doing it because you're curious, and curiosity is a key.
And I've done some things in the past. I've done, even in the book I wrote, The War on Carbs, I talked about like a fat fast and just primarily like running off of fat and just, I guess like experimenting and see what that'll do for you. But it can be inconvenient. Sometimes things are out of convenience. And something I shared with people for years is that some of what I've chosen over the years has to do with convenience. I utilized a ketogenic diet because I didn't want to be tethered to my food. I didn't want to have to walk around. Like, at least that was my understanding of bodybuilding and a bodybuilding style diet. And as I lost weight, I'm like, forget all this meal prep stuff, man. I don't want to be any part of that. I don't want to, cook up a bunch of chicken breast or whatever it is on Sunday and have that day be shot. I have 2 kids, and I'd rather be around my family rather than just sitting there prepping meals all day. And so I just started to kind of figure out like, well, what diet's going to work for me that's going to allow me more distance away from my food. And that for me at the time was high protein, high fat, because the fat is not only satiating and satisfying, but it has a delayed response in your body, takes longer to break down, longer to digest, makes all the other foods that you're consuming take longer to digest and so forth as well. So that's the style of diet I went with. And I used to tell people I chose this because it's easier. Mm-hmm. And I know that you can take that diet and make it difficult and you can get ready for a bodybuilding show. But most of the time, what I saw most bodybuilders do, I was like, that looks like I don't want to count calories. I don't want to be like trapped in trying to bring around my 6-pack bags or whatever with all the Tupperware and everything in there. And I'd rather find something that's going to allow me to eat a little differently. So I did those diets for years, and I've been experimenting with diets pretty much ever since. And even when I did Carnivore, my brother and I went on the Joe Rogan show, and we talked about how we modified the Carnivore diet. And then Rogan was kind of like, well, that's not Carnivore anymore because you're adding in fruit, and then you got Saladino and some other people kind of found similar things. It's because you experiment, and that's why people end up with similar protocols. So I'm imagining people in the keto world that do a bodybuilding style diet, they probably end up having to follow a lot of your rules and principles because there's not that many different ways to get like completely shredded when you're talking about the specifics of a particular diet. And on the other side of things, when I've done a bodybuilding show before, I did do a bodybuilding diet. And it was like just cut and dry. Like you're going to do some cardio. You're going to eat carbs. You're going to lower your fats. And this is how you're going to do it. And when I ask questions, they're like, nope. I say, hey, what about, they're like, nope, can't do that. Can't do intermittent fasting. Can't do this. Can't do that. And so there's a lot of rules associated when you're putting yourself on the line like that and you're putting yourself on a stage. But for average people who are just want to look better, feel good, be lean, I think they have a lot of options when it comes to different diets that they want to select.
Yeah, 100% agree, man. I feel like sustainability and convenience go hand in hand. And I mean, I used to do the whole bro diet too, like 6-7 meals a day. I'd carry my gym bag, my book bag in college, and another duffel bag full of Tupperware, eat every 2 or 3 hours, just being a slave to the clock. And I didn't like that. That's why I went keto. And for me, I'm more productive throughout the day because I can typically have like a fatty coffee and then maybe a brick or something post-workout, and then I'll be good until dinner and have typically 2 meals a day and not be fixated on food the rest of the day. And that was liberating. But yeah, you're right. When it comes to like bodybuilding level stage leanness, I mean, when you're getting sub 5% body fat, like you can't really do that intuitively because intuition forces you to eat more, So when you're trying to get to inhuman levels of conditioning, you got to play by a certain criteria that is not natural, but nobody in the right mind should argue that that's healthy or optimal or sustainable long term. That's why I take 2 or 3 years off in between competitive seasons. Like I don't want to subject my body to those stressors for too long. So yeah, it's all about what you want to do. But people that are just trying to live at a healthy body weight, healthy body fat. I mean, they've got all kinds of options at their fingertips.
I think, in addition, I think there's I think each person wants to sort of prove their diet right, no matter how open-minded we are, we want to prove that our thing works, So, here I am at 4% body fat, or here I am, at 48 years old, doing these various things. I like to encourage people. I get excited. So when I get excited, I'm going to talk about something more. But I do think that there are things that people should consider when they're looking at certain individuals and what they're doing. Dr. Shawn Baker comes to mind. It's well, Dr. Baker is a badass. I don't know, if people have been around the guy, man, that guy is extremely intelligent. He's fun. He's also fun. He's fun to talk to. He's kind. He's not a dick. He maybe online he might be a little bit here and there to the vegan people that are mean to him. But he's a good dude. He's got a good heart, and he trains really, really hard. And then on top of that, I have no reason not to believe him. He's a natural guy, and he's 6'5", and he's 250. And he's able to jump onto a box that's 41, 42 inches, and he's nearly 60 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It's that guy's got my attention, wait a second, what is this diet that he's doing? And not to say that he's proving that his diet works, but at least it seems like the diet's working pretty well for him. And then he has a subset of people that follow him, and you see the testimonials about people healing, their skin and autoimmune disorders. There's a lot of weight loss as well. So I just don't think it makes sense to really discredit other diets. I think what we're all trying to think, I think we're all looking for is a way to eat a lot, but still be in really good shape. And there's different ways to do that. That's what I've discovered, because I've done a lot of different style diets. I haven't done them all, but I've done a lot of different styles of diet. And the diet that I'm doing now is allowing me to eat a lot of food, and it feels really good. But I also have been in situations before where I've done keto style diets, carnivore diet, where I've eaten a lot of meat, 2-3 pounds of meat a day, 5-6 eggs every day, some cheese, some bacon. And it's man, that right now I miss a lot of that. Those fats and stuff like that, they are, regardless of what they actually do inside the body, we can't deny how satisfying they are. They tend to they tend to scratch an itch. And maybe that's just because we have so many calories at our fingertips all the time these days. But man, does it feel good? One of my favorite things to eat in the world is a keto brick. And then also I love omelets.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was going to die, I would be hey, get me an omelet and get me a keto brick, and then you could take me out.
All right. Noted. Keto brick omelet, man, coming up.
That's right.
Yeah, I feel like people got to look at what they're wanting to accomplish and then adapt accordingly. There's a lot of people that do diets because they have the autoimmune issues, and that's going to be a limiting factor from them trying other options. Or psychologically speaking, people have negative relationships with food. Some things are trigger foods. I used to have really bad OCD, and that was motivating for me to adopt a ketogenic approach. And you got people like Chris Palmer putting out a bunch of research for what's happening in the brain with different types of diets and what's optimal in that regard. And I think all of that has to go into consideration and figure out what's sustainable. But people need to just not be dogmatic in their thinking either. I've done multiple different diets. I did several different diets before I went to keto. And in the 10, 11 years I've been keto, I've played around with multiple variations of keto. But I don't ever want to be living in this information silo that creates this dogmatic thinking and just backs you into a corner. And I feel like some people get in these diet war tribes, and then they're just totally unreceptive to anything and everything outside of that. And I think, we see that online all the time, especially with you. I mean, you're typically there's this weird outrage within the keto space right now because of the popularity of keto, or of sugar diet rather, because it kind of, for whatever reason, hit a lot of people that were hardcore carnivore. So then you had these people that were jumping ship and doing the sugar diet from the carnivore community. So you've got the purist, talking smack, and you got these people that are guinea pigs doing their thing. And it's to each their own, let everybody figure out. Some people just have to learn on their own, and there's nothing wrong with that either.
It might just make you realize that the diet didn't work. The new diet you tried didn't work, or did work. And maybe even you try the diet, but it didn't work for you, but someone else in your family picks it up and it's effective for them. There's a lot of great things that can happen from trying something new and different. As far as like health concerns go, I mean, I guess you can do something really wacky, crazy with your diet that would make you like sick. And depending on your previous background, maybe depending on your liver health and all these different things that might go into you trying a new protocol. Those things can happen. I mean, if you're coming from a background where you're diabetic, if you're coming from a background where you have like fatty liver already, and then you're trying something like the sugar diet, you're going to have to do so with knowledge. You're going to have to do so because if you just consume, even average person who's used to sugar, if they just randomly eat a bag of candy, they may not feel well. Like they might not get sick, but they might feel like shit. But for somebody that already has some issues, it could potentially send them into a tailspin. They might have, end up with really high blood sugar or end up with really low blood sugar. It really just kind of depends on the person. And I don't think we've had a lot of situations before where we've kind of instructed people to, only eat this, only eat just straight. It's not really ever straight sugar because there's multiple sugars in just about everything. There's like, fructose and glucose, and there's all kinds of different shit going on with almost every single thing. I guess maybe with the exception of maybe even high fructose corn syrup has other sugars in it, but you have to be a little bit cautious. And if you are to mix carbohydrates, it actually gets to be safer. So if you are to have, let's say, like a rice cake or something, people think rice cake, oh, the glycemic index is nuts. It's off the charts. So maybe it's going to make you not feel so well. But it does have rice in it, and it has some sugar. And even if you were to dump honey on it, you're most likely not going to feel like crap from eating something like that, depending on how many of them you ate, though. And then the same thing kind of goes for like juice. Like most people can have 6 ounces of juice, 8 ounces of juice. But if you take like 12 ounces of juice and you pour it into a blender and then you blend up a bunch of fruit with it, and then you dump sugar in there and you eat the whole thing in one sitting, and the amount of time it takes you to eat a smoothie is pretty short. Well, now you might have just ingested 600 grams or 400 grams of carbohydrate kind of out of nowhere. And so you have to be, so I'm saying you got to go into these things with knowledge. You have to have some sort of understanding. And it's good to jump into things. It's good to try new things, but then you have to try to do so in a reasonable way. Yeah. And you might say to yourself, okay, I'm going to try this, but like I haven't had 75 grams of carbs in a sitting in 3 years. Okay, well then let's start with, 50 grams of carbohydrate, see how you feel. And then you can start to go from there. But just be kind of cautious whether you're jumping into keto or jumping into this diet. I think it's good that people have the conjecture. I think it's good that people talk trash. I think it's good that people get a little angry. I think we should. I think we should be some red lights should be going off when somebody's talking about doing something that you haven't really heard anybody else talk about before. Because you're like, well, why this guy? Why did this guy discover this thing that no one else knows about? And how come everyone else is talking completely opposite of what this guy's saying? So I think a lot of that caution is actually a good thing. It's a survival thing.